Today on Woodturning, we're going to make a splatter platter.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Robust, built to turn wood, enjoyed for a lifetime.
Easy Wood Tools, best-in-class carbide wood turning tools. Before we get started today, I want to thank our sponsors, Robust Lathes and Easy Wood Tools, because without their support we wouldn't be here and that wouldn't be any fun. And they make great products and that's why I use them. So, Brian has some interesting friends. Remember he got this one piece of wood from somebody at a soccer game a while back? Well, now he's got a friend who's got a bunch of these. They're basically called cookies. They're slabs of wood, they're just cut like this, and chip carvers use them to carve on. This is basswood. Really crappy wood to turn. Trust me, I know. But if you're carving, they're awesome. So what are we gonna do with it? We're gonna paint them. And that's we're going to use a technique that's been done for decades. You remember going to the fair and they had this thing set up where you drip paint on it and spin and make a picture and you take it home? That's what we're going to do with the wood today. It's really kind of cool. Lots of options, lots of variables. Never know what you're going to wind up with until you get the paint out. So I'm screwing my worm screw into the hole I just made, and you notice I'm not spinning this disc by hand. I'm using the hand wheel on my American Beauty to do it, because if you screw this by hand and get crooked, basswood is so soft you're going to rip out that hole and you won't be able to hold this. So I'm keeping it perfectly straight, and there, now we're where we want to be. So we're ready to turn? Nope. We're going to go ahead and take this off now because we've got to set up our paint booth. Don't tell my wife, I borrowed one of her storage bins. I cut a hole in this and then I did little slices along it, kind of like a pie wedge. So when you take it, I'm fitting it over this protrusion on my lathe. And I want it to fit tightly. And so by doing the pie wedge thing, it fits on there really well. Isn't that cool? So when you look on the inside here, now what I have is an enclosed paint booth. So when I use the paints here in a minute, it's not going to mess anything up. Now it's a little crooked, so I'm just going to bring my banjo over here and lock her in that way, all straight. So now that is why we had to take this off the lathe, because we couldn't get that on to begin with. So the next step is we're just going to put this in here and thread it on. And thread it on. There we go. Cool. Now we're going to get ready to paint. Come on, lucky 7. No, that ain't it. We're going to paint our blank black. Some alliteration there. So, I have the door open to the shop right now since I'm not wearing any breathing protection, because the fumes will get a little crazy after a while. And I only have so many good brain cells left, I don't want to really risk them. So I'm putting a light coat on. We're going to dry it with a heat gun. And then we'll put one more coat to make it thick enough that none of the wood shows through. Okay, our second coat of black is on and dried, and so now we're going to put a clear coat on top. And we want this simply because it's going to keep the colors we're going to put on here from soaking into the grain of the wood. We want them to ride on top of this clear coat, and it'll make them much more vibrant. They'll also splatter out better. So before we get painting, let's talk about design. There really is no design. I got to play for the first time in months. I'm kind of busy. I don't know if you know that, but I am. I'm retired, but I'm busy. Anyway, I never get to play in the shop anymore, and so this was great. I spent the afternoon painting and splattering and doing all this cool stuff. First thing I tried was Josana paints. If you remember our Cosmic Cloud, they reflect. They're really cool, right? I like them, but that's not my favorite. By the way, this has a clear coat on it, so you can see how the basswood makes a really nice brown color here. But anyway, this one was really cool. So this platter I got on there, and it was a little bit crooked like that. So when I started to go for the edge, it did this neat movement there. I love that cut. That's really cool. I did the center out also because I just want to pop it out. You get a glump of paint in the middle when you start, and you want to get rid of that. On this one, we wanted to get it designed to where we left the raw bark showing. So that is really cool too. It's up to you to do what you want. It's up to you to do what colors you want. Here are the paints. This is Josana. You have to get these and you have to liquefy them up. You have to like put a cutter in it to where it makes it more flowable. And this is just good old pure acrylic, and it works great on its own. There's a lot of shaking going on today. So I'm set up all my colors. They're really cool. I want vibrancy here, so we're gonna do some of that orange. That's gonna look really cool. I don't need a whole lot. We're just gonna want to put a couple globs on there. But yeah, like I said, I've been playing, so look at this mess. Finally getting to use up some of these paints that I've had laying around for years. But anyway, we're going to apply these paints. I'm gonna start with the darker color first, blue, and we're gonna use a paintbrush, but not really to paint. So, proper protection. Now this is really, really important. We want to turn our lathe on first and now pick up the speed and see how fast we can go. Now you might have some bark fly off here, so be ready for that. We got a little bit of wobble. There goes some bark. We want to go faster, faster, faster. Whoa, I'm losing my GoPro camera. It's going so fast. Okay, that's my max spin right there, I think. Ooh, I can go that fast. Feel the wind coming off? Why am I doing this now? Because when we start applying our paint, we don't want to slowly ramp up the speed or the paint will just kind of go, yeah. We want to hit it and have it go real fast, and the robust lathe can really pick up some speed. So I want to be able to hit go and have it go fast. Other thing I want to do is I want to look here and find out, there's my center about there. So we're going to take our first colors here and not painting, we're dabbing. We're going to put a dab here, going to put a dab here. You kind of want to be a little bit away from the center because it helps spread the paint out. Now, let's test this. Here we go, turn her on. We're just going to let that go for a little bit. Give it as much time as possible. If you look around the edge of the platter on my paint box here, you can see where it's splattering out. Hence the Splatter Platter. And you can see, look at that, it's really getting wider and wider. This is cool. Everything in the shop is starting to vibrate too. Let's turn it off and see our results. Cool, huh? Now, if I want to make this more, I could put more blue on there, but nope, we're going to just keep applying different colors and see what we wind up with. Wipe some of this away. Why would you do that? Well, we're going to turn this away in a second, but what I don't want is anything wet right there because we have one final color, and that's black. I've played around with this a bit, and by putting black in as the last color, the black itself looks really cool as it spreads out over the other colors. It gives a little bit of three-dimensional look. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, though, so we'll see how it goes. Just got to get a glob on there. There we go. Okay, let's crank this puppy up. And you can tell as it starts to spread out, the center color starts to dissipate a little bit. So I'm just kind of watching this all the way through the whole process to figure out, okay, this is flung as far as it can. Two, if I'm looking down, I can see my splatter pattern. And when things stop splattering, that probably means it's reached its full extent. You can see it's starting to feather out now. So that's what I look for every time I put a color on. Well, let's stop it and see how we did. Cool. See how the black kind of encroached in there, and now we got sharper definitions. So this is the last step before we start turning. I just want to make sure that everything is dry from about here out because we don't want any of the paint bleeding into the wood as we're cutting it. Okay, so now I've got my Easy Wood chuck mounted back onto my lathe, and it is holding the platter. So this is where we get into a little bit of design work, and the easiest thing to start with is we're going to start with the center. Now, I could use carbide, I could use edge tools, which I'm going to use. Basswood does not turn well. Trust me, it does not. Pick this up till we get rid of our wobble. Okay, well, kind of get rid of our wobble. There we go. Basswood rips out no matter what. So I'm going to take cuts here, but I'm not going to have much success at getting a good clean surface. Now remember, there's a worm screw in here, so we don't want to dish this out too much. If we dish it out too much, we have a hole in the bottom of our platter. Then we have to figure out how to fix that. Anyway, it's gonna slowly come wider. And I will stop this here and show you what basswood looks like for turning. That's why painting this thing is much better than, look at that. It looks like Swiss cheese. Basswood is not meant to be turned. Okay, so I want to bring this out a little bit wider, I think, just a little bit. So how do you attack this and how do you fix it? The only tool I found in my entire arsenal to fix this is my big round nose scraper. And I have a negative rake on it, and the negative rake normally works even without a burr, because once you wear the burr off, the corner of the tool is still sharp enough to work on the wood. But let me get this dished out and I'll show you why a burr is so important when you're using basswood. So what is a burr? When you sharpen your tools, a burr is like a microscopic sliver of metal that gets raised up off the edge. So on a negative rake, right here at this intersection, there's a little sharp piece that's pointing up. That is like a razor blade. So when we start this up, it's going to slice this wood like you're taking a razor blade to it. And hopefully, in a little while, it'll start removing all of that torn out grain. The other thing is, this is a pie plate cut out of a piece of tree just straight across, so all the grain is coming out this way. So if I pull back, I'm now pushing against the grain, and it's a supported cut, so it'll be less likely to tear out. Now I've only made 2 passes here. It's going to take several to finish this up, so let's just see what it looks like right now. See how much better that is? So a little bit more work. I'll get rid of all of that right there, all the tear out, and it'll be nice and smooth. So this was just a happy mistake. What happened was this face is not perfectly flat, so it was canted a little bit like that in the lathe. And when I touched the tool to it, I wound up with this little half moon. Well, this piece is perfectly flat, so I came up with an idea. So we just have just got on there tight. We just loosened the worm screw a bit, right? And I'm taking a wedge. Gonna put the wedge here and then tighten this back up. Okay, all we're gonna do is make a slight cut. So when you look at this now, watch. It's touching, it's not touching, it's touching, it's not touching. I can't wait to see how this turns out, because I might be able to make a deeper groove here and still have this neat look. Let's turn this on. Keep my hands away from that thing. Okay, so I'm going to come in and just make a cut this way. Again, it's a supported grain cut, and I just want to tick this in, and I'm just using the angle of the tool to make this mark. Okay, I'm going to stop it, see how I'm doing. See, it's good. It's not as far as I want, so we'll go a little bit deeper. And that supported grain cut worked because it didn't tear out at all. Just got to make sure you don't let this thing skate as you're going in here. I'm going to come back a little more. Kind of roll the tool over to finish the cut. Make sure I'm scraping so it's clean. Pretty good. Want to go a little more? We're halfway right now. I like it. That's pretty cool. So that's the finished project. Now this has to set up a little bit before I put a clear coat on it, so I'll show you what a clear coat looks like on the one that we did, or I did yesterday. It's going to be really cool because it pops out all the wood colors. As long as the wind will quit blowing, we're good. See how the brown comes out now? Basswood really is a pretty wood. Pretty big pain in the butt too. But now, look at how all those colors are popping. Isn't that awesome? So that is how you make a splattered platter. I hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time on Wood Turning, keep painting and turning.
Tim's American Beauty was made by Robust Tools, America's premier lathe manufacturer. Robust. Built to turn wood, enjoyed for a lifetime.
Easy Wood Tools, best in class carbide wood turning tools.